Let me ask you something personal. When was the last time you sat down at the end of the day, looked back at everything you did, and felt genuinely disappointed in yourself? Not because something bad happened, but because nothing happened. The thing you promised yourself you would do today, the workout, the study session, the project, the one habit you have been trying to build for months, it didn't happen. Again. And in that quiet moment, alone with your thoughts, you said something to yourself that you would never say to someone you love. I am so lazy, Maybe you didn't say it out loud. Maybe it was just a feeling, a heaviness, a familiar sense of shame that sits in your chest and whispers, why can't you just do the things you say you are going to do? I want you to stay with that feeling for just a moment, because what I am about to tell you is going to change the way you see yourself forever. You were never lazy. Your brain was protecting you. And by the time this video is over, every failed habit, every broken promise to yourself, every time you gave up just when things were getting hard, it is all going to make complete sense. Not in a way that lets you off the hook, but in a way that finally gives you a real way forward. So let's start at the very beginning. Your brain is the most extraordinary organ in the known universe. It contains approximately 86 billion neurons, firing signals to each other at speeds of up to 250 miles per hour. It processes more information every single second than the most powerful computer ever built. And it does all of this while making up only 2% of your total body weight. But here is the thing nobody tells you about that extraordinary organ sitting inside your skull. It is incredibly, almost desperately, expensive to run. Your brain consumes 20% of your body's total energy, every single day, just to keep the lights on, just to keep you thinking, breathing, moving, existing. And because of that, because energy has always been the most precious resource a human being has, your brain evolved with one absolute, non-negotiable survival priority: conserve energy, wherever possible, at almost any cost. Now think about what that means for a moment. When you decide to start a new habit, when you commit to waking up early, going to the gym, studying for an extra hour, building something that matters, you are asking your brain to do something that goes directly against its deepest survival instinct. You are asking it to spend more energy than it wants to. And your brain does not like that. The part of your brain responsible for discipline, planning, and long-term thinking is called the prefrontal cortex. It sits right behind your forehead. It is the most recently evolved part of the human brain. And it is, by far, the most energy-intensive region to run. Every time you sit down to do something difficult, every time you resist a distraction, make a hard decision, push through the urge to stop, your prefrontal cortex is working at full capacity. And your brain notices. It sends a signal, clear, unmistakable, and deeply uncomfortable. This is expensive. This is hard. Stop. That signal feels like heaviness, like resistance, like suddenly needing to check your phone, get a glass of water, reorganize your desk, or do absolutely anything except the thing you sat down to do. And for most of your life, you interpreted that signal as a character flaw. You thought it meant you were weak, undisciplined, not cut out for the life you wanted. But that signal is not weakness. That signal is 50,000 years of human evolution doing exactly what it was designed to do, keeping you alive, keeping your energy reserves intact. protecting you. The problem is, your brain cannot tell the difference between a real survival threat and an uncomfortable habit you are trying to build. To your brain, sitting down to work on something hard feels exactly the same as walking towards danger, so it pulls you back every single time. Now here is where the story gets even more interesting. You have heard of dopamine. Most people have, and most people think they understand it. Dopamine is the pleasure chemical, right? The thing your brain releases when something feels good? Partially true. But here is what the research actually shows, and this changes everything. Dopamine is not released when you experience a reward. It is released when you anticipate one. Your brain fires dopamine in the moment of craving, not the moment of satisfaction. Think about the last time you picked up your phone without really meaning to. You weren't even bored. Your hand just reached for it, almost on its own. That was dopamine, firing in anticipation of something stimulating, something new, something that might be interesting. And then you scrolled, and scrolled, and somehow it never quite felt as good as that first moment of picking it up, that feeling of excitement before and emptiness after. That is your dopamine system working exactly as designed. Now here is the problem. Every app on your phone, every streaming platform, every piece of fast food, every social media notification was designed by some of the most intelligent people on the planet with one single purpose in mind: to hijack your dopamine system, to trigger that anticipation response as fast as possible, as often as possible, with as little effort required from you as possible. And it worked. Beautifully, devastatingly, it worked. Because when your brain gets used to receiving a dopamine hit every 8 to 12 seconds from a screen, sitting down to work on something meaningful, something that might not pay off for weeks or months or longer, becomes almost physically unbearable. Not because you are undisciplined, but because your brain is making a perfectly rational comparison. On one side, immediate reward, zero effort, instant stimulation. On the other side, discomfort, delayed gratification, uncertainty. And your brain, every single time, is going to choose the path of least resistance, unless you change the equation. A study published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology found something remarkable. People who attached small, immediate, genuine rewards to difficult tasks, not after finishing them, but during, were dramatically more likely to continue those tasks over time. Not big rewards, not elaborate systems. Something as simple as your favorite playlist while you work, a coffee you genuinely love before you sit down to study, a 5-minute walk outside between focused sessions. These are not distractions. These are what researchers call temptation bundling, pairing something your brain already wants with something your brain is resisting. You are not bribing yourself. You are speaking your brain's language. And when you speak its language, it stops fighting you. Now I need to challenge something that you have probably believed since childhood. The idea that some people are just naturally more disciplined than others. That some people wake up early, work hard, stay consistent, and build great habits because they have something you don't. Some internal reservoir of willpower that you were simply not given enough of. I need you to let that story go, because it is not only wrong, it has been actively keeping you stuck. In 1998, a psychologist named Roy Baumeister conducted an experiment that permanently changed how scientists understand self-control. He brought participants into a room that smelled like freshly baked chocolate chip cookies. On a table in the center of the room, there were two things: a bowl of warm, just-baked cookies, and a bowl of radishes. Half the participants were instructed to eat only the radishes and to resist the cookies. The other half could eat freely. Afterwards, both groups were given a set of unsolvable puzzles and told to work on them for as long as they wanted. The people who had spent their energy resisting the cookies gave up on the puzzles almost twice as quickly as those who had eaten freely. Not because they were weaker people, not because they cared less, but because they had already used their mental energy on self-control. Baumeister called this ego depletion, and subsequent research confirmed it across hundreds of experiments. Willpower is not a character trait. It is a finite daily resource, like a battery. And every single act of self-control, every decision you make, every craving you resist, every moment you push through discomfort, drains that battery a little more. This is why you eat perfectly all day and then completely fall apart at 10 o'clock at night. This is why you are sharp, productive, and focused in the morning. And by 7 in the evening, you cannot make a single good decision. This is why Monday motivation always feels so strong. And by Thursday, it has almost entirely disappeared. Your battery ran out. And the people you admire for their discipline, the ones who seem effortlessly consistent, they are not running on a bigger battery. They stopped trying to fight their brain and started designing their life so that the right choice is also the easiest one. They don't resist temptation through sheer willpower. They remove temptation from their environment entirely. Phone in another room during work hours. Healthy food at eye level in the fridge. Gym bag packed the night before and placed directly by the front door. Running shoes next to the bed. They are not stronger than you. They are smarter about how they use what they have. But there is one more piece to this, and it is the most important thing I am going to say in this entire video. So I need you to really pay attention here. Every habit you have ever tried to build, every discipline system you have ever attempted, you built it from the outside in. You started with the outcome. I want to lose weight. I want to be more productive. I want to exercise consistently. I want to read more books. And what happened? The outcome felt too far away. The results were too slow. The effort didn't feel worth it yet. And you stopped. Because outcomes are not enough to sustain behavior. Not long term. Not through the hard days. Not through the days when motivation has completely disappeared and nothing is working, and you genuinely cannot remember why you started. What sustains behavior is identity. Not what you want to achieve, but who you believe you are. There is a profound, life-changing difference between these two sentences. I am trying to go to the gym, and I am someone who takes care of their body. The first one is an action you are forcing. The second one is an expression of who you are. When you build a habit around an outcome, every missed day feels like failure. But when you build a habit around an identity, every single action becomes a vote. A vote for who you are. A vote for who you are becoming. You miss a workout. That's okay. You are still someone who takes care of their body. You come back tomorrow, because that is what someone like you does. Psychologists call this cognitive consistency. Your brain is biologically driven, almost compelled, to act in ways that are consistent with your self-image. It will fight harder to protect who it believes you are than to achieve any external goal you set. So the question is not, how do I force myself to be more disciplined? The question is, who is the person who naturally does this thing? And then you make choices, small, imperfect, inconsistent choices, that person would make. Not every day, not perfectly, just more often than not. And slowly, without a single dramatic turning point, without one perfect day that changes everything, you become that person, not because you forced it, but because you voted for it, again and again and again. So let me bring all of this together for you now. Why did you give up last time? Not because you were lazy, because your brain was burning more energy than it was biologically designed to sustain, and it shut itself down to protect you. Why did you keep reaching for your phone instead of doing the work? Not because you have no willpower, because your dopamine system had been trained by very smart people with very large budgets to expect a reward every few seconds, and the work simply couldn't compete. Why did you start strong and completely fade by week 2? Not because you didn't want it badly enough, because you were relying on motivation, which is emotional and temporary, instead of systems and identity, which are structural and permanent. And why does it feel like some people are just naturally more disciplined than you? They are not. They just learned this earlier. They stopped fighting their brain and started working with it. They made the right choices easier. They protected their mental energy. They built their habits around who they are, not what they want. And you can do every single one of those things. Not tomorrow. Not when your life is less busy. Not when you feel more ready or more motivated or more like yourself. Right now, with the exact brain you have, in the exact life you are living. Because here is the truth that I want you to carry with you long after this video ends. Your brain was never your enemy. It was never broken. It was never failing you. It was never the reason you couldn't have the life you wanted. It was protecting you, the only way it knew how. And now, you know better. So does it. If something in this video shifted something for you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Not for the algorithm, but because someone in your life is sitting alone right now, calling themselves lazy, feeling ashamed of themselves for reasons that were never their fault. And they deserve to know the truth. Subscribe to Why You Did That. Every single week, we go this deep into the real reasons behind the things you feel, the choices you make, and the patterns you cannot seem to escape. Real psychology, real science, explained like a conversation, not a lecture. The next video is already waiting for you. I will see you there.